We are speaking with Grassroots Democrats today. So we're joined by Rebecca Acuna, Jody Bland, Haley Taylor Schlitz, Miguel Solis, and Lou Blackburn. And we're talking about the Democratic presidential primary coming up, Super Tuesday. And so I want to hear from each of you. Who are you going to be voting for in the Democratic primary and why? Rebecca, let's start with you.
I am unequivocally very excited about voting for President Joe Biden. This time, I cast a ballot for him last time around as well in the Democratic primary. I am voting for him because he has shown that he's not about the theaters. He is about getting things done, and I really have enjoyed that steady leadership we've seen from President Biden.
Haley.
I echo that. I also will be voting for President Joe Biden. As a member of Gen Z, a lot of his actions resonate with our values, whether that be diversity and equity or gun restrictions or reproductive rights. Like Rebecca said, he is not theatrics. He is about the action. He has done a lot of the good hard work, and we want to see him keep it up.
Jody.
Yeah, echoing both Rebecca and Haley, I'm very excited to vote for President Biden for re-election. I think his legislative record stands on its own. He's arguably the best legislator that we've had in the White House, definitely in my lifetime, and really is for recent Democrats. So I'm excited to vote for President Biden.
And let's go to Miguel.
I also intend on supporting President Biden for very much the reasons that were just presented. I think that things that have been said or points that have been made about his unelectability have missed the bigger mark, which is very much to what Jody just said. Someone whose legislative career really positioned him to be one of the most effective presidents we've had, particularly when it comes to working with Congress to pass legislation. So for those reasons and many more, I'll be supporting President Biden.
And Lou.
Okay, as you know, I was a national delegate last time for Joe Biden. I voted yesterday for Joe Biden. As you've heard and know, Joe Biden is able to, I think, as I said last time, calm the waters. Even though we have a little agitation going on right now, we need somebody that's going to be able to be level-headed, to be able to talk to both sides of the aisle, because that's the only way we're going to get things done. And he's trying to do that, and he is doing that, and I think he will continue to do that.
And so I'd like to find out from each of you, what are your top issues? What is most important to you this election? And Lou, we'll start with you this time.
Well, you know that immigration is in the news, and I know that that's a big concern, and I think that Joe Biden, along with Kamala Harris, are trying to tackle that. And as you saw with most recently, they tried to put together a bipartisan plan that broke apart at the last minute because of one person, I think. So I think immigration is going to be important. I think women's rights is going to be important. I think voting rights is still going to be important.
Miguel.
Yeah, an issue that continues to remain near and dear to my heart and to my family's heart is affordable health care. And as Jack, I think you and some of your viewers may know, my daughter just a few years back had to have a heart transplant. And making sure that healthcare remains affordable for people, including for my family and my daughter, is a really important thing. And while I recognize healthcare may not be at the forefront of the political discussion at the moment, President Biden has done a pretty good job at continuing to ensure the Affordable Care Act is well implemented and continues to be a user-friendly experience for those that are trying to access healthcare. One final point, though, the state of our democracy and the health of our institutions continue to be a major issue, not just for me, but I think, many of the potential voters. So protecting our democracy is an important thing, and I think Joe Biden has done that to this point and will continue to do that.
Miguel, since you brought it up, how is your daughter doing?
She just turned 6 last week, Jack. So I appreciate it. Her health is very, very good.
Great news to hear. All right, Haley.
Yeah, I would say that voting rights are a huge issue for me and for Gen Z, and I think for American society. A lot of the difference we can make is done through voting and through representation and through that social impact and civic engagement there. Civil rights is also a huge one, has been, will be, is right now for me. And like I said, for Gen Z and for American society, very important. And the last one I would hit is probably women's rights. We've seen Gen Z understands, and especially Gen Z women understand what the Trump administration and the Trump Supreme Court has done to us, and making sure that we have the right people in the room and at the table. Because, I heard a quote recently by Colin Aldred that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Making sure we have those people at the table to do the work that we need done is going to be really important.
All right, Jody, what are the most important issues to you?
Of course. Well, as an economist in my day job, it's hard not to just err on keeping a pulse on inflation and unemployment and some of those kitchen table issues. And I personally think President Biden is great on all of those. An often underrated aspect of his presidency, I think, is the work that the FTC and the DOJ have done on antitrust enforcement, working to help prevent major corporations from really squeezing extra dollars out of people's pockets in a very effective way. And he's really the first president who stepped up really on behalf of labor and on behalf of consumers to do so. So I'll say the economy first and foremost, and then, as everyone else says, reproductive rights are top of the issue this year, and it hits close to home in my family and my friends' families, particularly with some of the recent movements in Alabama on IVF. So reproductive rights and the economy are top tier issues.
And Rebecca.
Listen, I agree with Jody. I think that his work on the economy is completely underrated. What if I told you that more Americans are working now than at any single point in history? These are pocketbook issues across parties, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. We're seeing low unemployment, wages are going up, we have the strongest economy in the world. I think that's what people really care about. It's something that I really care about because it helps families rise all across the country, and reproductive rights as well. We're no longer living in a hypothetical. We are seeing the effects of the overturning of Roe. And I like that we have strong leadership on this issue from both President Biden and Kamala Harris, and trying to enact executive orders to protect women, and in places where, frankly, the Supreme Court hurt women.
And my last question to you, and I'll open it up to whoever wants to start, and that is, when you look, and I know it's early, obviously we've got a lot of time before November, but when you look at the polls now, and you look at the battleground states, former President Trump is leading President Biden in many of them. And I'm wondering, what do you think it's going to take for President Biden to win in November? And whoever wants to start.
I'll start with that.
Yes.
Listen, Joe Biden has been underestimated his entire life. This is what we were hearing in 2020. And instead, what did we see? We saw a big narrowing of the gap in Texas. We saw red states that people were not talking about. We saw people vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in Georgia, in Arizona. So he not only won battlegrounds, he's expanding. He expanded the map. And it wasn't a one-time thing, because we saw Democrats continue to win in special elections, in Senate seats where people thought Democrats weren't gonna pick up seats. Democrats have continued to overperform expectations in almost every single election since 2020. And now, that was before the overturning of Roe v. Wade, January 6th, Trump's felony indictments, all of his legal issues. I think he is exactly where he needs to be. The key is continuing to tout all of these accomplishments that he's had, that maybe because people are not panicking they're not panicked, they're not paying attention to all of these accomplishments. But I really think we're gonna see the map grow.
Who wants to go next? Haley?
Yes, I'll go. I think there are two demographics that he, has been picking up momentum with, and should continue investing and paying attention to that. Number one, Black women. We've shown that we will turn out to vote. Look at 2020, look at 2022, record numbers, and we will do it again. Additionally, Gen Z, you know, I've mentioned that already. And as a Gen Z myself, I am very aware of how engaged and how much we value politics and the issues that resonate with us and impact our lives and the values that we hold. And, you know, you can ask Trump about Gen Z in 2020 and see where our ideologies were, see who we backed. And I think everyone, you know, in the news, everyone here, every poll, the country needs to remember that every single day, hundreds of new people are eligible to register to vote. And those people are Gen Z. And Gen Z is not a Trump generation. So I think as time goes on, we'll see those polls, we'll see these factors start to come into play.
Who would like to go next?
I think you'll see that President Biden is already doing what he needs to do as president. He's talking to the Republicans about the finances, the economics of the country, talking to them about the immigration concerns that we have. He's meeting with labor people. He's meeting with everyday people. And I think a lot of Democrats see that Joe Biden is our ticket back to the White House. And I think it's a way that we can slow down, if not exterminate, this push in the Trumpism.
And Jody.
Yep, sure. And I'll kind of wrap this up in a little bit of a different direction. I think for President Biden to win in November, it's imperative that Democrats nominate strong candidates up and down the ballot this Tuesday. We're blessed in Texas and in Dallas County in particular right now, because not only do we get to vote for President Biden, we get to vote for folks like Colin Allred for U.S. Senate, Sam Epler for Congress, Kate Rumsey for state representative. We have just a really plethora of awesome candidates. And by doing so, we're well positioned to not follow the mistaken laid path that the Republicans put forward in 2022. We saw what happened when they nominated different types of candidates in different races that aren't the strongest. And so I think by having that sort of grassroots momentum at the local races, President Biden's going to benefit substantially.
And Miguel.
Yeah, so just two final points. One, the premise of the question was tied to a poll. And if we know anything about polls in the last few presidential elections, it's that you really can't predict much from the polls. So it's keeping an open mind as we get closer to the actual general election. And then finally, perhaps to put a bow on everything, but to come back to Rebecca's point, there are going to be things that stack up on President Trump, right, when it comes, or former President Trump, right, when it comes close to election. That right now it may be cute to think, well, what could we do if it's not Joe Biden? Would it be interesting to have a Donald Trump back on the, but when those things start to stack up, including possible felonies, the average voter, including the voter who hadn't made a decision just yet, I think they're going to land on the side of reason, the side of logic, most importantly, the side of a president who for 4 years has been delivering for the American people. So pretty encouraged about President Biden's reelection chances.
All right, Miguel Solis, Lou Blackburn, Haley Taylor Schlitz, Jody Bland, and Rebecca Acuna. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.